Start over.
Thank you very much for coming. These are the activities that we're having for January. We have Islamic, we have Arabic club on Sunday, January 20th at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and Thursday, 21st January. We have ladies decoupage workshop that's on Tuesday, January 22nd for ladies only. You can register by January 20th, that will be the deadline. And you have Korean, Arabic calligraphy and typography. That's on Mondays and Wednesdays. It will begin on January 23rd to February 11th. And we do have ladies potluck dinner. Ladies only. We have teacher residency on Wednesday, January 30th. And we have divine wisdom from the Last Testament every Monday, learning that is about the tafsir of the Quran and also the Arabic words and different meanings. We have purification purification and prayer every Wednesday at 11 a.m. If you want to know about the ablution, how you perform it, about the prayers, the rules and the conduct, and everything related to Islamic purification, you can join this class. We have stories of the prophets every Thursday at 7 p.m. And we have Islam 101 every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. And we do have the art of reciting the Holy Quran Thursday at 10 a.m. And we have memorized Dharma and Surah Al-Kahf every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. Dharma and 7:30 p.m. and 7 o'clock Surah Al-Kahf. And we also have Arabic classes. And to find much more about the newsletter, you can find it on your website and silence your phone.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa salatu wa salam ala ashrafil mursaleen Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. This is the third session about Musa alayhi salam. And we said before that Musa is a central figure in Judaism, Christianity and Islam. So the story of Musa alayhi salam can unite us and can be a common ground on which we can best do da'wah to Christians and Jews. So, as I said before, not only did the prophets and messengers come to teach us how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they also taught us how to live our daily lives. So they suffered a lot and they did a lot for us. They didn't charge any money because they were expecting rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They faced a lot of challenges, but in the end they emerged victorious. So we said before that Pharaoh saw a dream that one of the children of Israel would grow up and would be the source of his destruction. So he summoned his advisors, his ministers, to interpret the dream, and they did say that, you know, one of the children of Israel will grow up and will be the source of your destruction. So he decided to kill every male who was born among the children of Israel. But the Copts and others, they were afraid, they were concerned. They said, if you kill them, then the economy will not do well, because we depend on them as slaves and we depend on them in doing menial jobs. So Pharaoh decided to kill the newborn babies, male babies, in 1 year and spare them the following year. So in the year in which they were killing male-born babies of the children of Israel, this is when Musa alayhi salam was born. And we did discuss what happened last week. So today we will discuss what happened when Musa finally ended up in the palace of Pharaoh. So according to exegetes of the Noble Quran, interpreters of the Quran, they maintain that when Pharaoh's young slave girls picked the padded chest from the Nile River, it was locked. So as we said before, the mother of Musa alayhi salam, when she was inspired by Allah to make a padded chest and keep Musa inside of it, she contacted a carpenter and she asked him to make a chest. We say the chest is a wooden box, and she put some pads on it to make sure that the water doesn't enter into it, and then she suspended it in the river Nile. So here, according to majority of the interpreters of the Quran, the slave girls of Pharaoh are the ones who picked up the padded chest in which Musa was in River Nile. So they didn't dare open it until they placed it in front of Pharaoh's wife, who was called Asiya. So the wife of Pharaoh, her name was Asiya, and actually she's a descendant of the king of Egypt during the time of Yusuf alayhi salam. So if you remember when we talked about Yusuf alayhi salam, and we said the king of Egypt at that time was called Ar-Rayyan. So Ar-Rayyan gave all the powers to Yusuf alayhi salam, who was appointed a minister of finance, so to speak. So from Ar-Rayyan, who was the king of Egypt during the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh, came. So she was Asiya, daughter of Muzahim, son of Ubaid, and Ubaid was son of Ar-Rayyan. So she descended from the family of Ar-Rayyan, who was the king of Egypt. So other historians opined that Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh, was among the children of Israel from Musa's tribe. So they say that she belonged to the tribe of Musa alayhi salam. As-Suhaili, another historian, on his part said that she was his paternal aunt. All in all, Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh, descended from the family of Ar-Rayyan, who was the king of Egypt during the time of Yusuf alayhi salam. So when Asiya, Pharaoh's wife, opened the padded chest, she found a boy whose face was shining and amazing. So handsome, his face was shining, he was amazing, a handsome boy, and she didn't have boys, she had only girls. So she loved him from the very first moment she saw him. You know, and this is normal. Sometimes you meet someone for the first time and you feel you like this person, even though you never met him before. And actually, this is one of the interpretations of a hadith. There is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in which he says, Al-arwahu junudun mujannada, ma ta'arafa minha talaf, wa ma tanafara minha ikhtalaf. So the Prophet ﷺ says, souls of human beings are like conscripted soldiers. So soldiers have been drafted to be together, preparing for a war. So long as you meet and stay together, you will get to know one another, and the more you know one another, you will like one another. But so long as you stay away from one another, aloof from one another, you will not know much about one another, and you will entertain some fears and concerns about one another because of your ignorance about them. So one of the interpretation of this hadith, according to some scholars, experts of hadith, that the souls were created before the bodies. So we are all body and soul. So our bodies were created after the souls were created. So there is what they call alamul arwah, the world of souls. So the souls they met somewhere before they were joined with their bodies. So if someone's soul met with another soul before they were created, then when they are created, they meet each other, they like one another as though they have known one another for a long time, yet they never met before. So this happens to many people. You meet someone, from the first moment, from the first impression, you feel you like this person. So Asiya radiallahu anha, she also, from the moment she saw Musa alayhi salam as an infant in the padded chest, she liked him, she loved him. So she loved him from the very moment she saw him. So when Pharaoh returned home, so this was at the time before Pharaoh had not yet returned home. So when he returned home and he saw this infant, he asked her, his wife Asiya, what is this? Ma hadha? And you know, even the way he was asking the question, if you're asking about a human being, you don't say ma hadha, you say man hadha, who is this? But he said ma hadha, it's like a thing that doesn't have value. So he didn't take care about the infant because he is already threatened. He has already declared that every male born baby who is born in that year should be killed. So he was annoyed. I have already issued a declaration that every boy should be killed. So how come it's in the infant is in my palace? So he says, what is this? Ma hadha. Then he ordered his guards to kill him, to slay him. So the moment he saw him, the moment Pharaoh saw Musa, he ordered his guards to kill him. But Asiya, his wife, pleaded with him. So she asked him to allow her adopt him as a gift. So she said, I don't have male children, so just give him to me as a gift, let him live, let him stay. So he allowed her to keep him as a gift. So he himself, Pharaoh, didn't like him, but because his wife pleaded to have him, to adopt him, so he said, okay, there is no problem with that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, informs us about this incident. He says, وَقَالَتِ امْرَأَةُ فِرْعَوْنَ قُرَّةُ عَيْنٍ لِي وَلَكَ لَا تَقْتُلُوهُ عَسَىٰ أَن يَنْفَعَنَا أَوْ نَتَّخِذَهُ وَلَدًا وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. So, but the wife of Pharaoh said, he will be a comfort of the eye for me and for you. Do not kill him. Perhaps he may benefit us, or we may adopt him as a son. And they perceived not. So Allah says they didn't know what would happen in the future. So the Pharaoh's wife said, he will be an apple of my eye. So he will be the joy of my eyes, or he will bring me joy for me and for you. So Pharaoh's wife was not selfish. She said, if we adopt him, he will bring joy to both of us, to me and you. But we will see what Pharaoh said. So Allah is telling us, when she was saying this, that he will bring joy to both of them, she didn't know what was going to happen. Pharaoh didn't know what was going to happen. So Pharaoh quipped. He made a remark. He said, a delight for your eye, yes, but a delight for me, no. So Pharaoh said, yes, he will be an apple of an eye for you, not for me. In other words, he will be a comfort for you, not for me. He will bring joy to you and not to me. So from the very beginning, Pharaoh was very negative. And actually there is a proverb in Arabic that goes, Al-bala'u muwakkalun bil mantiq. Does anyone know how to translate it in English? It's a proverb in Arabic. It goes, Al-bala'u muwakkalun bil mantiq. Does anyone know what it means? Al-bala'u muwakkalun bil mantiq. Yeah, what goes around comes around. What you think will happen, happens. What you say, it will come to happen. So what goes around comes around. What you think will happen, it will happen. So because she was negative from the beginning, because Pharaoh was negative from the beginning, so it so happened. That's number one. Number two, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in al-hadith al-Qudsi, He says, أَنَا عِنْدَ ظَنِّ عَبِدِي بِي وَأَنَا مَعَهُ إِذَا ذَكَرَنِي. I am as you think about me. So if you think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you, He will do. If you think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will rescue you, He will do that. So this is one of the Islamic texts, Islamic narrations or prophetic narrations in which the Prophet ﷺ informs us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He will do to you what you expect Him to do. He will help you according to your attitude. If your attitude is positive, He will help you. If your attitude is negative, it will happen the way you expected it to happen. So this hadith is always encouraging us to be positive. So always we have to be positive. So Pharaoh was negative from the beginning and the end was negative. His wife was positive and the end was positive. So we are always encouraged to be positive in everything that we do and in whatever we say. So Pharaoh's wife says he may benefit us. He did benefit her. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala indeed benefited her with what she had hoped for. Allah guided her through him, through Musa alayhi salam in this world, and in the hereafter she will be of those who will enter paradise. And what could be better than the benefit of someone guiding you towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What guidance would be better than the guidance that makes you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the guidance that leads you to eternal bliss in paradise? So He benefited her in teaching her how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He benefited her to give her good tidings that if you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you endure when you face a lot of trials and tribulations, your end will be good. So she ended up in paradise. Or we may take him as a son. So she told her husband, he will benefit us and we will adopt him. By that she meant we may adopt him as a son because Pharaoh and her didn't have any baby boys. They did have girls, but they didn't have boys. So, and you know, in some societies having a baby boy is a very big achievement. Some people would be dejected, would be sorrowful if they were continuously being blessed by only girls, not having boys. So he will be a joy to her as she expected. And then she told him, because we don't have girls, then we will adopt him as a boy and he will help us in many ways. For they had no sense of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would do through him. So all this was happening. They were being positive. Asya was being positive about him. Pharaoh was being negative about Musa alayhi salam. They didn't know what was in store for them, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was preparing that will happen through Musa alayhi salam, who grew up in their palace. So there is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in which he commends and praises Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh. In this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, خير نساء العالمين أربع مريم بنت عمران وخديجة بنت خويلد وفاطمة بنت محمد وآسيا امرأة فرعون. So Anas bin Malik narrated that the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, the best women among the entire mankind are four. Maryam, daughter of Imran, the mother of Jesus; Khadija, daughter of Khuwailid, Prophet Muhammad's wife sallallahu alayhi wasallam; Fatima, daughter of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam; and Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh. So Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh, is among the best women. Since the creation of Adam alayhi salam until the end of the world, these four women are the best women. Now there are some things that we learn from this hadith. What do we learn from this hadith? So the Prophet ﷺ is telling us the best women are four. And there are actually many narrations that confirm this, that the best women are four. The first, Maryam, Mary, the mother of Jesus. So the Prophet ﷺ didn't say his mother Amina, didn't say anyone's mother. Mary, the mother of Jesus. And actually, if we have any Christian here, Mary is the best woman among all the women in the world according to Islam. And there is a chapter in the Quran, chapter 19, by the name Mary. Is there any other chapter in the Quran named after a woman? It's the only one, the only chapter named after a woman. It's the chapter of Mary. Although the Quran was revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he didn't name any of the chapters after his wife Khadija or his daughter Fatima. Chapter Maryam, which means in Islam there is no discrimination. If someone is a righteous person from the time of Adam, we will still honor that person, whether he or she, whether he's a male or she's a female. So the first person on the list of the best women is Maryam, Mary, the mother of Jesus. The second one, Khadija, wife of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The third, Fatima, and then Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh. What do we learn from this hadith? We learn a lot from this hadith. Any ideas?
Women are valued in Islam.
Women are valued in Islam. That's number one. Number two, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, according to those who claim that he fabricated the Quran, if you read, for example, any book authored by a human being, you would see at the preface, my thanks go to my wife, so and so, she did this and that, she proofread the book, she did. So he would praise himself, he would praise his wife, he would praise his family members, and then friends. A human being. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how come a chapter is dedicated to a woman whom he didn't meet? Mary, the mother of Jesus. So why didn't he name it after his wife or his mother? So this is one of the proofs that we give that the Quran wasn't authored by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What else do we learn from this? You can be a righteous woman under a tyrant. So we can't judge a woman or we can't judge a person because of the acts of his spouse. So people would not say, wouldn't say that, because Pharaoh was a tyrant, so his wife was bad. Why didn't she advise him? Why didn't she divorce him? Why didn't she do this and that? She's going to paradise, he will go to hell. So you can be under one roof, husband and wife. If you are a righteous woman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will save you in various ways. And even prophets, some of them did have non-believing wives. Does anyone remember any of the prophets? A prophet, a messenger. He is a prophet, a messenger, one of the best human beings, yet his wife isn't a believer. Nuh alayhi salam, no, his wife wasn't a believer. Lut alayhi salam, his wife wasn't a believer. So this is an argument that helps you if someone criticizes you that, you are a sheikh. Why doesn't your wife wear hijab? You are a sheikh. Why doesn't your wife do this and that? You tell him, that person, I'm not better than Nuh alayhi salam. At least if my wife doesn't wear hijab, Nuh's wife didn't believe at all. Lut, his wife, didn't believe at all. Or for example, if someone is a righteous woman and she has a despotic husband, you can say, how come you are a good wife married to so and so, your husband is doing this and that? You tell him that Asiya was married to Pharaoh, yet she went to paradise, and Pharaoh she will go to paradise and Pharaoh will go to hell. What else do we learn from this hadith? What else do you learn from this? These women that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in this hadith, some of them, for example, Khadija, he didn't mention her because just she was his wife. She suffered a lot. She had a lot of contributions towards Islam. She did a lot to save the Prophet ﷺ. She spent her money for the sake of Islam. And she also rendered a lot of efforts to make sure that Islam was victorious. So the Prophet ﷺ is praising her not because she was his wife, because of her actions. Does anyone remember any of the contributions of Khadija, Prophet Muhammad's wife? What she did for Islam? Yes, sister?
When the priest got scared,
Mm-hmm.
and she's the only one who believed it at this time.
Yeah, so the Prophet ﷺ, when he first received the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he was afraid, he was panicking, he went to her, she comforted him, and she took him to her cousin by the name Warqa ibn Nawfal. So she comforted the Prophet ﷺ. She helped him to remove the stress. She advised him. So she was an advisor to him, to the Prophet ﷺ. So, and this is a very huge contribution to be advisor of the Prophet, especially at the beginning of the mission. What else did she do? She was the first person to accept Islam. So Prophet Muhammad ﷺ first, then Khadija. What else? Yes, sister? Yeah, so she put her wealth at the disposal of the Prophet ﷺ for the sake of Islam, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So she had a lot of contributions. Then we have Fatima, daughter of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. She also had a lot of contributions in Islam. And actually here there is a question. You know, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had 7 children. 3 boys and 4 girls, right? All the 3 boys died during infancy. Only the girls endured. So the girls remained and the boys died. What do we learn from this? There is a lesson, a subtle lesson that we learn from this. And actually remember, during that time, many people didn't like to have girls as children, and some of them would bury their girls alive. And if someone's boys or someone's male children died at infancy, they would say, "Huwa abtar," he is cut off. No one will continue with his legacy, or no one will support him. And actually, Al-As ibn Wa'il, one of the enemies of the Prophet ﷺ, used to taunt him to say "Huwa al-abtar," because all his male children had died. So it was a stigma, so to speak, during that time, to have your boys dead and to have girls remain. But the Prophet, the best human being, the messenger of Allah, the boys are dead and the girls endure. What do we learn from this? Any lessons? To prove that the Prophet ﷺ is the last messenger. Because if, for example, one of his children lived, male children, and then people would say, because your father was a messenger, they would honor him, and then they'll say, okay, be Khalifa. And people would always treat them, would give them a VIP treatment because they were just sons of the Prophet ﷺ. And if, for example, they did a lot of contributions in spreading Islam, people would accuse them, saying, you know, you are contributing a lot because it's the religion of your father. So it's not about faith, it's about fanaticism, it's about nepotism. So these are the reasons why his male children died at infancy. But there are some other reasons. Does anyone know why? So if you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are a good person, you uphold good morals and values without having children who will perpetuate your name, your fame. Still, if you are a good person, strangers will still perpetuate your name. And actually this has more value than having your family members perpetuating your name. So strangers, like for example the Prophet ﷺ, his own people wanted to kill him. They were plotting against him in Mecca. He immigrated to Medina. Strangers supported him who were not affiliated to him in any way. But because they accepted the faith and they knew it is a true faith, they fought. And they were ready to sacrifice everything. And they indeed sacrificed everything they heard for the sake of Allah. What else? Yes, sister?
It was a way for those who had idea of marrying their female girls to look at the Prophet and leave their male girls. Daughters.
Sister?
Also after the death of Prophet Muhammad, and not to make conflict, this who will be the Amir of the Islamic.
So if he had sons, people would force them to accept to be Khalifa, to be his successors. Another point here is that during that time, they used to look down upon girls. So the girls were regarded as a personal property. So if, for example, the girls are the ones who died and the males lived longer, so people will say, you see, this is true. Girls are a bad luck. Even the Prophet, see, his girls died. You know, we're always telling you. So Allah made it happen reverse to prove to the people that it doesn't matter whether it's a boy or a girl. All of them are creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also to learn from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam how to treat girls. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would treat Fatima very nicely. And even when he was in an assembly of his companions, when she came, he would stand up, greet her, kiss her hand or her cheek, and let her sit either on the right side or the left side. So it was a way of the Prophet ﷺ giving live examples on how to treat girls. In any case, these are 4 women who are regarded as the best since the creation of Adam alayhi salam up to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and until the day of judgment. So Pharaoh and his family were completely unaware of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had in store for them, which would be manifested in Musa crushing his kingdom into pieces. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala predetermined that they adopt Musa alayhi salam in their palace so that he would eventually become Pharaoh's adversary who would cause his destruction. So you were afraid of something, you were killing innocent people, and in the same year in which you're supposed to kill Musa, he grew up in your palace. And this is the very fear that you heard that will happen in your palace, to prove to the people that you can't challenge the preordainment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to give confidence to the believers that no one should threaten you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you. So long as you please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so long as you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will always be with you and He will protect you in different ways. So in the Bible it stated that the one who picked Musa from the river Nile was Pharaoh's daughter, and there is no mention of his wife. So as we said before, it was the female girl slaves who were working in the garden of Pharaoh. So they saw the padded chest and they didn't venture to open it because it was locked. So they waited until Asya, Pharaoh's wife, came, and she's the one who opened it. So what happened to Musa's mother during his absence? So now, as we said, Musa was left in River Nile. It flew him up to the palace of Pharaoh, but his mother is still there worrying about him, although she had asked her daughter to follow him and then to report to her. So about this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us thus, and I would ask my brother to recite the verses in Arabic, and then I will share with you the translation. وَأَصْبَحَ فُؤَادُ أُمِّ مُوسَى.
وقالت لأخته قصيه فبصرت به عن جنب وهم لا يشعرون وحرمنا عليه المراضع من قبل فقالت هل أدلكم على أهل بيت يكفلونه لكم وهم له ناصحون فرددناه إلى أمه كي تقر عينها ولا تحزن ولتعلم أن وعد الله حق ولكن أكثرهم لا يعلمون.
So the translation is Jazakallah khair. The heart of Musa's mother became devoid of feeling for all but Musa. So she didn't feel about anything else except Musa alayhi salam, to the point that she was about to disclose the matter concerning him. Had Allah not secured her heart to be of the believers of unfailing faith. Thus she said to his sister, follow him, so she watched over him from afar. But they who had picked him did not sense her presence. Thus, before returning him to his mother, we caused him to abstain from all wet nurses. Then his sister came forth and said to them, "Shall I direct you to the people of a household who will take care of him for you and who will treat him well?" Thus did we restore him to his mother, so that her eyes might be comforted, find joy in him, that she might not grieve, and that she might know that the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ever true. Yet most of them who disbelieve do not know that Allah's will is ever done. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding Musa and reminding each and everyone here that Musa's mother was grieved and she didn't care about anything else. Her concern was about Musa alayhi salam, and she was about to disclose to the people what she did to Musa in order to retrieve him, or whatever would happen to him would happen, because she didn't bear to miss him, to be away from him. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comforted her. He made her will strong to stay the way she was until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought him to her and Allah fulfilled her promise. So what do we learn from this? So Musa's mother was grieved, and she was about to tell the people what she did, because she didn't imagine where he will end, what will happen to him. She was missing him. She loved him very much. She didn't care about anything else except Musa at that time. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala causes Musa alayhi salam to refuse the wet nurses over there. So they were looking for some women to breastfeed him, and he was refusing to accept anyone to breastfeed him until they went to a marketplace, as we will see, looking for someone whom he will accept to suckle from. Still, he didn't accept anyone. So Ibn Abbas, Mujahid, and other interpreters of the Noble Quran maintained that the verse that says, the heart of Musa's mother became devoid of feeling for all but Musa, means it became devoid of everything concerning this world, and she was so distressed that all she could think of was only Musa. That was to the point that she was about to disclose the matter concerning him. She was about to reveal to people that what she had done with regard to hiding Musa and then locking him up in a padded chest, which she placed in the river. So she was about to disclose all this to the people. But something happened in the palace, which was one of the reasons that they had to return him to his mother. So after Moses was taken inside Pharaoh's palace, as they had wanted to keep and adopt him, they looked for someone who could breastfeed him. However, he could not suckle from any foster mother, neither did he eat any food from anyone. Not only did he refuse to breastfeed from anyone, he also refused to eat any food. So they were concerned. So Pharaoh's wife loves him. Pharaoh had accepted to grant him to adopt him at the request of his wife, so he didn't want to disappoint her. Although Pharaoh was a tyrant, and again, this is one of the attributes of the polytheists, of the enemies of Islam, especially during the Jahiliyyah. Although those people were enemies of Islam, were wicked people, but still they had some good qualities. So for example, when we talk about the polytheists, Kuffar Quraysh, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they were wicked. They didn't respect any rule of law. It was the rule of jungle. So whoever might was right, but still they had in them some good qualities. Does anyone remember one of those good qualities they had? The Quraysh, before, yes, they respected people's privacy. So they wouldn't storm into someone's house and kill him into the house. They would wait until this person goes outside. So although they were non-believers, although they didn't have any moral compass that would guide them, but still they had some good morals among them to respect one's privacy. What else? Generosity. They were generous, although they were not believers. So if they had a guest, they would entertain him according to their means. What else? Hospitality. What else? Honoring promises. So if they promised, they would fulfill the promises, even if they were idol worshippers, even if they were criminals, but they would fulfill a promise if they did promise someone. And today we have believers in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, believers in Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They don't fulfill their promises. Even those in Jahiliyyah are better than you. Pharaoh is better than you because he fulfilled his promise that he will let Musa grow up in his palace, and he promised his wife. So he was also concerned because the infant was not breastfeeding and he was not eating. So, however, he could not suckle from any foster mother, neither did he eat any food. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَحَرَّمْنَا عَلَيْهِ الْمَرَاضِعَ مِنْ قَبْلِ. Thus, before returning him to his mother, we caused him to abstain from all wetnesses. A wetness is a woman who breastfeeds a child who isn't his son or his daughter. So like Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was taken to a lady. Does anyone remember the lady where he was taken to breastfeed? Halima Sa'diyah. So Halima Sa'diyah was his wet nurse. So here they sent him with midwives escorted by other women to the marketplace, assuming that they would find someone from whom he would accept to breastfeed, but it failed. While waiting there, Musa's sister spotted him. He saw Musa, and without hinting that she was his sister, she offered to help them. So when they were looking for someone to breastfeed Musa in the marketplace, so his sister, Musa's sister, saw them. So she followed them and she offered to help. So she said, according to the Quran, هَلْ أَدُلُّكُمْ عَلَىٰ أَهْلِ بَيْتٍ يَكْفُلُونَهُ لَكُمْ وَهُمْ لَهُ نَاصِحُونَ. Shall I direct you to a household who will foster him for you and who will treat him well? So nasih means to treat someone well and also to advise him well, to treat a person like your own child. And you know here, when we talk about treating someone well, especially if someone isn't your parent, it's tricky somehow. You know, if someone, for example, is adopting his brother's son or his father's son, either they would go to the extreme of being lenient, being afraid to criticize him because he will complain that, you know, you're criticizing me, you're doing this because I'm not your son, or going to the other extreme of mistreating him because he's not their biological son. But the middle way is to treat them the way you treat your own son. So when he does something wrong, you punish him. When he does something right, you guide him. Because if you do not punish him at this tender age for the wrong that he does, when he grows up and he comes to understand that what he did was wrong, he will blame you that you didn't show him the right way. So nasih here, it means a lot to treat someone well, to advise him, to punish him when he goes wrong, and to reward him when he does something right. So his sister is saying, I will guide you to a household who will treat him well as though though he were their child. So here she knew but that she was going to guide them to his mother, and the mother would treat him well because he is her son. So Ibn Abbas said, when she said that, Musa's sister, they asked her, how did you know about the deep sympathy and affection towards him? So you're telling us about a household that if we take him there, they will adopt him, they will treat him well, they will have sympathy for him. How did you know that? She said, out of the desire to please the king and to obtain some benefits from him. So they will do it because it's the king's family that is requesting them to do that. And because they need benefits, they will do it for the king. What do we learn from this? So Pharaoh's family, probably his wife and some girls, some maidens and some servants are going to the marketplace looking for a woman who would breastfeed Musa alayhi salam because he had refused to suckle from any woman. And his sister sees them looking for someone, and she offers to advise them, and she says, I know of a household who will do the job for you. So they become curious. How did you know about that family? So, and actually she was detained for some time. They're curious. How did you know about that family? So she said they would treat him well because they are looking for benefits from the king. He is the king of the entire country, and anyone would be honored to serve him. So by this, after saying this, they released her, and then they implemented her advice. So what do we learn from this? And actually, there is a quote here before I go ahead. It says, many people receive advice, only the wise profit from it. Many people receive advice, only the wise profit from it. A lot of people, you advise them because they are smart Alex, they think they know everything, they disregard your advice, or they look down upon you. Yet deep down their hearts, they know it's a valid advice. So a clever person, a wise person, is the one who accepts advice. And actually, when we talk about wisdom, what is wisdom? From the English point of view, when we say wisdom in English, what does it mean? So to know what to say and when to say it. To say something which is in conformity with the situation, which is suitable for the situation. That's one. Two, implementing your knowledge. So you have knowledge You know the ideas are good, so implementing these good ideas that you have, this is wisdom. What else?
You have a lot of experience
Having
with these things, and so you have a lot of knowledge about how things work.
Yeah, experience. So experience coupled with knowledge. And this is why when you apply somewhere, you want to have a job, they don't only look at the qualifications. Your qualifications might not be as good as the other person, but because of experience, they will take you. So experience matters. What is? Because in schools, at universities, they give us knowledge, they don't teach us experience. So we have knowing what to say and how to say it and where to say it, implementing the knowledge that you have, having experience. What else? Wisdom. To have skills. Number 5, wisdom is not to react negatively to every situation. So for example, someone says something weird about you, so you react negatively. Wisdom is to react positively in whatever situation you are. So here we are talking about wisdom. We are talking about advice. Also, another meaning of wisdom is to follow a good advice, to implement it. This is wisdom. Someone advises you to your benefit. He has no ulterior motives in his advice. So implementing the advice, you are being wise. So what do we learn from this? This experience. So Musa's sister advises them to take him to a family whom she knows will treat him well. And actually she wanted him to go back to her mother. This is what she wanted. So what do we learn from this? Wisdom. She was wise. So Musa's sister was wise. 1. Number 2, what else? Now, for example,
She basically told them what they expected to hear. For example, telling them, yeah, they want benefits from the king. This is normal. So it would reduce their suspicion.
Yeah, it would reduce their suspicion. And actually, by saying that, they would feel that she was loyal to them because she spoke well about the king, assuming that the king would be generous, he would treat them well, they would please him, and she also would like to please the king. This is why she was offering her advice. So she was being wise here. What else do we learn from this experience? Yeah, actually here she didn't lie. She told the truth. But here she was using what we call in Arabic tawriya. Tawriya means to say a statement or a word which is susceptible to various interpretations. So a person might interpret it in different ways. For example, the Prophet ﷺ, there is a time when he heard news that some enemies were about to attack the Muslims in Medina. So he and Abu Bakr were scouting the area to look, to assess the situation. So they encountered a Bedouin. So they asked the Bedouin about what he saw. So before describing what he saw, he said, would you please introduce yourselves? So he was asking the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr to introduce themselves to him. They told him, first introduce yourself, give us the information, then we will introduce ourselves. So the Bedouin introduced himself and he gave them the news of what he saw. I saw a group of people, they were clad in war gear, they were prepared for war, they did this and that. Then finally he asked the Prophet ﷺ to introduce himself. The Prophet says, Ana min al-ma, I'm from water. And Abu Bakr, when they asked Abu Bakr, he said, this is my guide. So Abu Bakr is telling that the Prophet ﷺ is his guide, and the Prophet says, I'm from water. So the man was saying, is it a well in Iraq? Is it a well? So they left him interpreting it. So this is called tawriya, and tawriya we are allowed to use it. So she was not lying, she was using tawriya, and they would interpret. But in her heart, she knows she wants him to go back to his mother. And if she tells them that it's his mother, maybe they would think otherwise. So what else do we learn from here? We learn from here that not only boys are clever, not only boys are wise. So sometimes some families, when they don't have a boy in the family, the mother would be sorrowful, saying, I wish I had a boy, he would do this and that. What Musa's sister was doing, some boys don't do it. And some boys wouldn't have done it. So this is to show that it's not always that boys are wiser than girls. Girls also have a lot of contributions. So this girl did contribute a lot to the welfare and well-being of her mother and the well-being of Musa alayhi salam. And as we said before, she loved her mother. She was dutiful to her mother. She did her best to please her mother because she was not forced. If she was forced, she would have done what they call malicious obedience. She would have said, okay, it was difficult for me, you know, many girls were there, I wouldn't go closer. But because she was doing it wholeheartedly, she tried her best to do it. And this is what a Muslim should be. A believer should do. Everything that you do it wholeheartedly and seek to do it perfectly. We can't be perfect, but try to do it as the best you can. If you do that, Allah rewards you. So they released her and went with her to her mother's house. So Musa's mother took him and with much love hugged him and started to breastfeed him. He immediately started suckling. They became overjoyed, family of Pharaoh, and sent a messenger to inform Asiya, Pharaoh's wife, who immediately summoned Musa's mother to the palace and offered her to stay there with them and assured her of good treatment. They said, you stay with us, Musa's mother, stay with us in the palace. We will treat you well, we will pay you well, don't worry. Because they were happy the way Musa was happily breastfeeding from her. And this is what they were looking. Little did they know that it was his mother. However, she declined. So they offered to take her to the palace. They promised to pay her well, to treat her well, but she declined. She told them that she had a husband and children, so she could not stay there to suckle the baby unless they allowed her to take him to her house. So what do we learn from this? So Musa's mother is offered to live in a palace with all the amenities during those times. She would enjoy herself being with her son, having good food, good clothes, but she says, no, I have a family, I have a husband, I have children. If you want, I will take him with me. What do we learn from this? So she was not looking for mundane benefits. What she wanted was her son, to be comfortable with her son and to be with her family. What else? So they would have noticed something the way she was reacting to Musa. And you know what? One of the stories, one of the good stories, or one of the interesting stories about Sulaiman alayhi salam. You know, Sulaiman was a prophet and was a king. So two women gave birth at the same time. And they gave birth to a boy and a girl. So each woman was claiming that her infant was the boy. So there are two women who gave birth at the same time, a boy and a girl. Both women want a boy. No one wants a girl. So the case went to Sulaiman alayhi salam. So the women, all of them were adamant. It's a boy, it's a boy. So what about the girl? And you're only two women. So Sulaiman says, bring a sword. I will cut the boy into two pieces. Then I will give each one of you a piece. So one of them says, no, let her keep him. Then Sulaiman knows this is the mother. The one who says, don't kill him. Because this is the love of the mother. She says, take him, let her take him, but I can't endure my son to be cut into pieces. So she could be afraid. Maybe Musa's mother was afraid that if she goes to the palace, they will notice something and they would realize that she was his mother. What else do you learn from this? Blood is thicker than water. What else?
We also learned the woman's priority over money, the husband and the children.
Yes, husband and children. This is priority over money. This is to show that she was a good wife. Other women, especially if they are not treated well with their husbands, or if they don't love their husband, they would just go and ignore their husband, say, let him suffer. He was mistreating me. He doesn't appreciate what I do. You cook a lot. I do this and that. Now I'm offered this chance to go to the palace. Let him value me. Let him at least miss me and value me. But she didn't do that. So Asiya not only agreed to send the boy with his mother, but also assured her of a salary and other benefits. MashaAllah. So you're taking your own son. You're going to breastfeed your own son for whom you were afraid. You were sorrowful. And on top of that, you are paid and given some other benefits. So what do we learn from this? What do we learn from this? So not only did Musa's mother get back his son, but he was paid a salary and he was given some other benefits by taking care of her own son. Patience. So patience pays. So her patience and endurance paid in the end. One. Number two, what else do you learn from this? Yes. If you do something good sincerely, if you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely without ulterior motives, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you here on earth and in the hereafter. It's cause and effect. If you worship Allah sincerely, and worshipping Allah sincerely is to do what you do only to seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you do it seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will be rewarded here on earth and in the hereafter. So Musa's mother, because she was sincere, she loved him, and she didn't want to betray her husband, she was not about mundane benefits, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewarded her double. And in the hereafter, her rewards are big, because even when you take care of your child, you are being rewarded for that. The Prophet ﷺ says, "Ma tut'im bihi nafsak fahuwa laka sadaqa." What you feed yourself with is charity. So imagine you work hard, you buy something for yourself, you eat it, you enjoy it, a delicacy, Allah rewards you for that. Whatever you feed your wife with, Allah rewards you for that. Whatever you feed your children with, Allah rewards you for that. If, for example, you are a wife, you are working, it's not necessary for you to help the man to meet the demands of the house or to run the household, but if you pay something to help your husband, Allah rewards you for that. Although it's not your responsibility, but when you do it, you are doing sadaqah, and the best sadaqah is the one that you give to someone who is closer to you. So by taking care of your child, although he is your son, your daughter, you're being rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you get rewards on the day of judgment. Allah will reward you for taking care of your children. This is why, if for example you try your best to do your obligations towards your children, don't always remind them constantly, you know, you guys, you can't do this and that, you know, I'm paying your school fees, I'm doing this and that, even a small task you can't do it. You don't tell them that, because what you do, you're being rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you say that, Allah doesn't reward you. So you don't need to remind them of what you do for them, especially if they don't help you with the house chores. So for example, someone has girls, they don't help her. Someone has boys, they don't help him. And they keep saying, you know, I'm paying this and that. You guys don't care. I'm your father, I'm your mother. No, don't say that. Whatever you give them, whatever you do for them, it's an act of worship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards you. So Musa's mother got rewarded twice, here on earth and in the hereafter. What else do we learn from this? Yes, sister? So Allah fulfilled His promise, because He promised her, don't worry, don't be dejected, we will return him to you. So Allah fulfilled His promise, and when Allah fulfills His promise, He gives you a full package. So not only did you get your son returned, but you got these benefits as we saw. Moreover, she gave us some clothes. So not only was Musa's mother being given money, some other benefits, she was also given clothes, and of course there were quality clothes and gifts. So Musa's mother happily returned with her son to her house. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about that. He says, فَرَدَدْنَاهُ إِلَىٰ أُمِّهِ كَيْ تَقَرَّ عَيْنُهَا وَلَا تَحْزَنْ وَلِتَعْلَمَ أَنَّ وَعْدَ اللَّهِ حَقٌّ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Thus did you return him to his mother, so that her eyes might be comforted and find joy in him, and that she might not grieve, and that she might know that the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ever true. Yet most of them who disbelieve do not know that Allah's will is ever done. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says they returned him to her as they had promised. So if you are sincere with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you obey Him sincerely, if you follow His instructions, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will fulfill His promise here on earth and in the hereafter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. So whoever sincerely fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will find a way for him. Either a solution from problems, a solution for his problems, or a way for him to fulfill his needs and requirements, or to achieve his goals. وَيَرْزُقُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides for him from means that he doesn't anticipate. So Musa's mother didn't expect to be paid for breastfeeding her son. So if you comply with the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you submit to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely, not only Musa's mother, not only prophets and messengers, even us today, if you are sincere in worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will reward you in different ways. For example, I know two people, they're friends, they were working together, both of them underpaid, and one of them, these two people who were underpaid, he was not working. He would just sit, read newspapers. When the manager came, he would pretend he was busy. When the manager goes, he sips coffee and he sits. The other one was working hard, whether the manager was there, whether he wasn't there, he was working hard. Guess what? After a few months, the one who was working hard got a job, and he was paid 4 times than he was paid in his previous job. because he was sincere. So if you are sincere, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you in different ways. And if you are, for example, if you are underpaid, this is their problem, the problem of your employer. He will be responsible for that in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So two wrongs cannot make a right. So you do your work, because work is ibadah. As we said before, by working per se, you are actually worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether you are paid well or not, you are worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if they don't pay you well and you don't have any other alternative, so intend, keep it in your heart that I'm working for the sake of Allah. And if you keep it in your heart that you are working for the sake of Allah, and you are sincere in that, Allah will reward you in different ways. And when Allah rewards you, the reward is big. You will enjoy it and you will be happy with it. So it was so great a divine favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon Musa, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed him of it when he spoke to him at Mount Tur. So the time came when Musa alayhi salam went to Mount Tur, Jabal Tur, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to him directly. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him, brother, do you mind reciting the verses 37 to 39?
وَلَقَدْ مَنَنَّا عَلَيْكَ مَرَّةً أُخْرَى إِذْ أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّكَ مَا يُوحَىٰ أَنِ اقْذِفِيهِ فِي التَّابُوتِ فَاقْذِفِيهِ فِي الْيَمِّ فَلْيُلْقِهِ الْيَمُّ بِالسَّاحِلِ يَأْخُذْهُ عَدُوٌّ لِّي وَعَدُوٌّ لَّهُ وَأَلْقَيْتُ عَلَيْكَ مَحَبَّةً مِّنِّي وَلِتَصْنَعَ عَلَىٰ عَيْنِي.
So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and very truly we had conferred favors upon you another time in the past. Behold, we revealed to your mother what was to be revealed of our decree. Cast him into the chest, then cast him into the river, then let the river cast him upon the shore. My enemy and his enemy will take him in. Thus I bestowed upon you love from me, that you would be brought up under my watchful eye. So no person saw Moses except that he or she would love him immediately. So not only did Pharaoh's wife love him, but every other person, whenever they saw Moses the first time, during their first instance, they would love him. Qatada and other scholars said that Asya would dress him in the best clothes, feed him with the best food, and provide him with the best means of entertainment. This was all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is what was alluded to by Allah's statement that you would be brought up under my watchful eye. So these verses from 37 to 39 talk about some favors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Musa. Can we count them? How many favors does Allah talk about in these verses? How many favors were they? Mahabba. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves Musa alayhi salam, and after loving Musa alayhi salam, He made people love him. Every person that set his eyes on Musa, he would love him. And the first among those was Asya, the wife of Pharaoh. The moment she saw him, she loved him. Not only her, other people, whenever they saw him, they loved him. This is why the Prophet ﷺ says, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves someone, He declares among the angels that I love so and so, so love him. And the angels would love him and people would love him. So if you see that people love someone, then this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now this love is also tricky. Someone might try to please each and everyone. So he helps everyone, he does this and that because he wants them to love him. Yes, ostensibly they will claim they love you, but deep down in their hearts they don't. But if the love comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will be sincere. So sometimes people complain, I always help people, I do this and that, people don't love me, people hate me, people are jealous of me. I always tell them, don't care about people, don't mind people, just concentrate on doing what Allah loves. When Allah loves you, He will announce to the angels to love you, and the angels will love you and human beings will love you. So concentrate on your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you do what He loves, Allah will make people love you. So don't care about the people. Respect them, do what you can, because what you do to them, you are actually worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether they appreciate it or not, continue doing good to them. Continue doing favors to them, because you are worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah loved him. He cast the love of him in the hearts of the people. What else does Allah tell us here among the favors that He gave Musa alayhi salam? He saved him. Yeah, he saved him from his enemies. First of all, many things here. He instructed his mother to make a chest, a padded chest, to hide him in it and drop him in River Nile. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the waves of River Nile to be gentle with Musa alayhi salam until he reached safely. You know, there could be some I don't know if sharks are in River Nile, but there could be the waves would be very strong and they would break the chest and something would have happened. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected him in the chest until he reached at the shore near the compound of Pharaoh, and he was picked up. Pharaoh's wife loved him. Pharaoh wanted to kill him. His wife says, no, leave him. He will be a gift for us. So all these are favors from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything is planned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. According to Allah, nothing is left to chances. Nothing happens by chance. Everything is planned meticulously by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why we always say, seek to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He's the only one who can cherish you. He's the only one who can protect you. He's the only one who can guide you. He's the only one who can help you. Because sometimes even human beings, I'll just give you an example, one example. There was a man, a new Muslim. He was looking for a job. He wasn't qualified. He had a high school certificate and his wife was qualified. So he's looking for assistance, and we said, okay, since your wife has a degree in education, we can help her get a job. That was in front of both of them. So he calls me aside and he says, you know, I don't want my wife to get a job. Why? She doesn't listen to me because she has a degree. I only have a high school certificate. If she gets a job, she will be a dictator in the house, and she denies me my conjugal rights. If she gets a job, that will be a problem. She'll be every time she'll be, I am tired. So imagine, and the poor wife doesn't know what her husband is saying. So I said, subhanallah, when they came, they were in a they were showing cordiality in front of every time, honey. But this is what she said. This is what he said. Now imagine something would have, maybe if he didn't get a job. Of course, we didn't continue dealing with him for so many reasons, because he disappointed us in many ways. But the question here is, his wife Miskina should think, oh, people don't like to help us. She would blame others, yet it was from her own husband. So this is why we say, trust only in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can save you. Even your own father, even your own mother can disappoint, but Allah cannot. So if you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you trust in Him, Allah will be there for you all the time. And Allah will not bring flimsy excuses that He doesn't do this and that. And you know what? Among the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. What is the difference between them? So we have Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. These are among the most beautiful attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we say Allah is Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. Sometimes translated as the most beneficent, the most merciful, the most merciful, the most beneficent. But there is a subtle difference between them. Does anyone know the difference between Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim? So Ar-Rahman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is gracious and merciful to all His creatures. Whether you are a believer or non-believer, Allah is merciful to you on earth. Ar-Rahim, He will be exclusively merciful to the believers. So on the day of judgment, only merciful to the believers. Here on earth, He's merciful to anyone. So He can't say, for example, because so-and-so doesn't worship me, I will not give him sustenance. I will not give him children. I will not protect him. Whether you believe him or you believe in him or not, you will still enjoy his facilities. You will still enjoy his grace. You will still enjoy his protection, whether you believe in him or not. But in the hereafter, He will be Ar-Rahim. You will go to him, for example, you say, you know, I did this and that, I helped a lot of people, I did good things. So he said, did you do it because of me? They say no. So whomsoever you did it for, go to them, let them reward you. If you did it for me, I will reward you. If you didn't do it for me, I won't reward you. So if you do things for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will reward you in different ways. And Allah is Ar-Rahman. Whether you believe in Him, whether you are dutiful to Him or not, He will do that. But a human being, if you annoy him once, he will withdraw all his assistance he was giving you. Or if he heard that you are maligning him, you are discrediting him, he will withdraw all the services he's doing for you. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't do that. So what happened when he grew up? Now Musa grows up. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ وَاسْتَوَى آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. So brother, would you continue? وَدَخَلَ الْمَدِينَةَ
ودخل المدينة على حين غفلة من أهلها فوجد فيها رجلين يقتتلان هذا من شيعته وهذا من عدوه فاستغاثه الذي من شيعته على الذي من عدوه فوكزه موسى فقضى عليه قال هذا من عمل الشيطان إنه عدو مضل مبين قال رب إني ظلمت نفسي فاغفر لي فغفر له إنه هو الغفور الرحيم قال رب بما أنعمت علي فلن أكون ظهيرا للمجرمين.
Jazakallah khair. So the translation is, and when he had reached full maturity and became fully grown, we gave him prophetic wisdom and knowledge, and thus do we reward those who excel in doing good. But before this, he had entered the city of Pharaoh at a time of midday rest, when its dwellers were unaware of activities therein, and wherein he found two men. This was during midday, so people were sleeping, having rest, siesta. So he found two people fighting each other. One of his own people cried out for help against the other one from his enemies. So Moses struck him who was of the enemy and unintentionally killed him. So Musa alayhi salam was moving around, roaming during noontide siesta. People are sleeping. It means he was an active man. He didn't like to sleep during that time. So people were sleeping, enjoying midday. And in some countries, someone has told me without mentioning names, if you visit someone in his house, they usually have a bed in the living room. So after having lunch, they would go to have a siesta, and then they would ask you also to sleep in the bed in the living room until around 3:30. Then they wake up, then they go about with their chores. So Musa alayhi salam was not sleeping, active man. He was roaming around, and he found two people fighting: a Copt, an Egyptian, and an Israeli, one among the children of Israel. So that man from the Jews asked Musa to help him. So Musa, because the children of Israel were persecuted, regarded as the lowest class, taking up the menial jobs, regarded as slaves, so Musa thought that the Copt had mistreated the Jews. So Musa punched the Copt to silence him and to criticize him, and unintentionally the man died. So Musa said in regret, "This is of Satan's work. He is indeed a manifest misguiding enemy." Musa said, "My Lord, I have indeed wronged myself, so forgive me." So he forgave him. Allah forgave him. Indeed, he is the all-forgiving, the all-merciful. He said, "Musa, my Lord, because of all that which you've graced me with, I shall never be a supporter of the defiant unbelievers." So here we're learning about Musa alayhi salam going around, strolling in the city. He didn't like to sleep. He finds two people fighting. One of them is looked down upon in the society. Another one claims to be a first-class citizen, and he helps the one whom he deemed as the weak. So he didn't have any grudges, but he just wanted to help the man who was a weak. And this is the way of prophets and messengers, to empower the weak in the society. So he punched the guy because he was so strong, and the guy dies. So Musa regrets the death of this person. So the question is, was Musa a sinner by what he did? Was it a sin? It wasn't. So it was unintentional. It was what they call manslaughter. What is the punishment of manslaughter in Islam? If, for example, you want to just slap someone, you punch him and then he dies. What is the punishment according to Islam? You pay blood money, right? So three things. One, you free a slave. Number two, you pay blood money. If you can't afford paying blood money, you fast for 2 consecutive months. So freeing a slave, paying blood money, and fasting for 2 consecutive months. So this is the punishment for manslaughter, killing someone without the intention of killing the person. That's number 1. Number 2, what do we learn from this? From this incident, Musa alayhi salam just wants to punish someone. He punches him and the guy dies. So what do we learn from this? He was very strong. And actually, maybe next time we should talk about the description of Musa alayhi salam, how the Prophet ﷺ described him. Maybe this will be the lesson next time. So Musa was very strong. What else? There's an important lesson that we learn here. Don't be so quick to act. Yeah, and this is a very important lesson. You know, sometimes a person will talk a lot. You know, you don't know me, I can hit you, I can do this and that. So you react negatively. One punch. This person has his own diseases, he has his own problems. Because you reacted negatively, you punch him and he dies. You carry a sin in yourself. So do not always react to people who talk a lot. Normally, those who talk a lot are not strong. Normally. So they say an empty barrel makes a lot of noise. So he will say, even he will try to arouse your anger. Jump, you know, you want to face me, come on. So you strike him once, he dies. Then it's a problem. So such a person, try your best to avoid him or her. And actually I have heard, without mentioning names, some people, because they are in dire poverty, because they are depressed, because they have lost hope, on purpose, they walk aimlessly on streets, so that you knock them and you pay them money. They do it on purpose, number 1. Number 2, on purpose, they would provoke your anger, so that you strike them, you pay. So you avoid such situation. People have their own intentions which we don't know about. Like for example, in some societies, people commit crimes not because they are criminals, because they want benefits. For example, it's winter, extremely cold. They don't have shelter. A person is homeless. So he will smash someone's car and report himself to the police so that they take him to jail, where he will have food, he will have shelter, he will have health care. So he's not a criminal, but because of circumstances, he does what he does. So you don't know what's in someone's mind. So do not always react negatively, because if you do, it will bring you problems. So I think I will end with this. If you have any questions, any comments, you can ask. You can air out your comments. Any questions or comments? So stories of prophets and messengers are real stories. These are not. It's not fiction. For example, the story of Musa, Jews, Christians and Muslims, we believe in it, although in Islam we have more details than in any other religion. Not only about Musa, even about Jesus. When we come to discuss Jesus, you will find a lot of information about him which Christians don't have, Jews don't have. So in Islam we say we have more information about the prophets and messengers mentioned in the Quran, especially the 25 ones, more than any other religion. Any questions, any comments? Yes, Hudayfa? We will talk about that next week, inshallah. And actually, you know, we will be talking next week, because we are talking about the strength of Musa alayhi salam. There is a hadith, and this hadith has one word, sabit, sin ba ta. This word brought a lot of problems in the translation, also in describing Musa alayhi salam. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in different narrations, he describes Moses as sabit. Now sabit has 4 connotations. Now if you read in translations, some translations say sabit means curly hair, some of them wavy hair, some of them straight hair. So Musa didn't have straight hair. So, but all sabit means straight hair. So we will see what happens with the translation. Again, this is another problem. When you read translations, sometimes you get confused. If you get confused, look for the word in Arabic and get the meaning from the Arabic perspective, because there are a lot of translations there which would confuse people. Any other questions or comments? Any questions, comments? Okay, see you inshallah next week in the tafsir class. Jazakumullah khair. Yes, yes, yeah, same time. Walaikum salam. Okay, trying to read it. Okay. Yeah, about. Notes about. Next notes about.
The prayer.
Oh yeah, the prayer. As soon as